guys. Happy Tuesday. This is Walk Away Wealthy. I am Trisha Turner. We are on our third year of this podcast, used to be anything but average. And the reason for this podcast every week is to bring you positivity, to bring you hope, to bring you inspiring stories to help you, A, grow your business, and B, improve your life. And every week I get to hear people's stories who I sometimes never have heard. And today is one of those. And so today I got a very special guest. I've got Delisha Boyd on me with today. And I've never met her in person, but we are kindred spirits and I've met through Facebook, and I love everything that she brings to the world. And I've heard just a glimpse of her story, and you guys are in for a treat. So Delisha, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I've followed you and watched you for the last maybe 3 or 4 years. It is inspiring to be here with you. You inspire.
You inspire. So we start off always, you guys out there in the TV land. Delisha, we want to tell everybody where you are in the world, what you do for a living, and how long you've been doing that, and maybe roles.
I live in New Orleans, Louisiana. I have been a licensed realtor since 2003. I worked for Gardner Realtors, Prudential Gardner Realtors for until 2014, and then I opened the doors of Delisha Boyd Realty and went from my daughter and I to now 67 agents between Baton Rouge and New Orleans. And I had the crazy idea to run for political office, member of the Louisiana House of Representatives. So I am a rep here in Louisiana as well.
All right. So first of all, I got to stop you right there because you said crazy idea. And I already am like crazy idea because number one, hearing your number of agents that you're like babysitting, because that's like a herd of cats.
It is.
That is a full-time, like 2 full-time jobs. And then you're now dealing with politics.
Yes.
Please tell me why in the world you decided to do that.
Because apathy in voting is really across the United States. If we want better, we have to, one, get out to vote for better, but we also need better candidates running.
Yes.
Right. So I had been a campaign manager for some time. So when I was in undergrad school, I used to work for Sybil Morial. Her husband at the time was the mayor, Dutch Morial, here in New Orleans. And so I would work on his campaign as a young adult. And then several years later, his son, Mark Morial, ran, and I worked on Mark's campaign. And his younger son, Jacques Morial, and I worked on our doctorates together. So you fast forward into I think it was 2010, my god sister came and she said she wanted to run for judge. She was an attorney and she needed a campaign manager. I was like, why would you want me? She was like, because you know everybody. And we did so well with that campaign that people started calling me to be their campaign managers.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So I did some management of candidates or some consulting, some advising. I was a part of our now Congressman Troy Carter's team, Senator Gary Carter's team, our clerk of criminal court, Darren Lombard, several judgeships. And my complaint through all of these years is sometimes, where are y'all getting the people from to run? Like, where do these people come from?
I wonder that too.
And so my new thing is, if people who know better don't run for office, then we get what we get. Right? So then you need the people who are passionate about equality for all, inclusion for all. And it can all be done. The fact that people fight so much about simple things for the craziest reasons, but that won't change if people like me don't decide to run, right? So I can't be bought. I could pay for my own campaign if I had to, and I am in a position today at my age too, where I know better. You and I kind of briefly talked about that offline.
Yep.
My view of things at 54 is quite different than it was at 24.
You have wisdom.
Yes.
And
so now I encourage better people to run. If we want change, if we want to protect women's rights, which is completely under attack right now, then we got to run. If we want our children to be better educated, we need somebody to get in and raise the teacher pay rates. Because right now, there's not a valedictorian going into education. That you're not going to go into, especially here in Louisiana, where we get paid the least amount of money in the southern region. I met with the president of University of New Orleans, and he said probably in 5 years he won't have an education department.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's alarming.
Think about it. Who wants to be in education right now?
No one.
The teachers are not really allowed to teach the way they need to teach.
No.
As a standardized test. I find this is a true story. Several of them teach the standardized test. So your kids are not really learning anything. And in Louisiana, so in our business, you have to be licensed to work. You can't show a lease without a license. But here in Louisiana, you could teach our children without a license.
Really? That is
have to be degreed. That is crazy. You just have to be degreed.
And you wonder, why our world and our country is going down the toilet.
And so I paint this picture for people when I talk about education, and especially in New Orleans, because we have the highest level of juvenile crime ever in the history of our city. In our state, we have the highest middle school dropout rate.
Holy crap.
Middle school dropout rate. And so I tell people, you can have the smartest person. I'm divorced now, and I joke with my ex-husband during COVID. I said, I'm so glad Chrissy was out of school, because she would have failed if I had to teach her at home. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I have a bachelor's degree, a master's degree in business administration, and I'm ABD on a doctorate, but I'm not a teacher.
No.
Right? So imagine we have somebody who could be very bright going into education, but she's not certified to be in that classroom. And I go in and I'm a visual learner, and you come in and you're an auditory learner, and Johnny is dyslexic.
Yeah.
She can be brilliant, but what we come off as is slow learners, because she doesn't understand that we just learn differently.
Yeah.
She doesn't know how to tap into our greatness, because she don't even know the difference between auditory and visual learners. And poor little Johnny, who's probably the smartest kid in the classroom with dyslexia, he starts out and he hears the rest of his friends learning and citing things that he's not seeing. So he quietly sits there, because he doesn't even know how to express that to someone. That you said that was the letter B, but it looks like an 8 to me. I see things in reverse. So then he becomes disruptive, because versus him sitting there not learning and not understanding in his little 4-year-old head what's going on, he just starts to act out. So the three of us go through the system. You and I get labeled slow learners. And Johnny is just a disruptive kid. So we go through pre-K, kindergarten, third grade, second, third grade, with missing the fundamentals of learning. We're missing learning how to read. We're missing learning how to comprehend. And then you go to fourth grade, but by then you should be now reading to learn. Well, we can't read to learn because we haven't learned to read and comprehend. So COVID hits, and now we're at home with classes that might be all of 30 minutes to an hour online, and then the parents are expected to do the most with that, but still with a teacher who wasn't qualified to teach me in the classroom. So she's lost even more now virtually.
Oh, yeah.
And that lasted for about 18 months here in Louisiana, because we had the death per capita was so high with COVID that, especially in New Orleans, Mayor Charles kept us in phase 1 longer than the rest of the state even.
Good Lord.
And they go back to school, and the kid that was lost before COVID is now even further behind.
For sure.
And now even further behind. So they get frustrated and they drop out of school. But in that break at home, if you have adult parents, whether it's 2-parent home, even 1-parent home, and they're dealing with a disease that none of us knew how to process that.
Yeah.
In 2019, 2020, you have a disease that's killing people where the world had to shut down and they couldn't work. So they worry about how to pay the bills and, what's going on. And Johnny comes in, she said, just leave me alone. Go play a game. Go play that. It's not Nintendo, Xbox.
Yeah.
And these kids were playing Grand Theft Auto. If you haven't seen it,
I have.
go get it.
Yep. I've seen it.
And so it's one of the reasons why we have carjackings in New Orleans like nobody's business. Right. I have these kids have, and it's 14, 15, 16-year-olds. I read last week at school in Baton Rouge, Capital Elementary School, and down the street, the principal, because there's a shortage. She's the principal of 2 schools.
Oh, goodness.
They're 2 blocks from each other. So she has the elementary school and the middle school. And she
That's unheard of.
Yes. She took me down to tour the middle school. And I commended her because last year that school was a middle school. It was just horrific. And it was peaceful and quiet. And she said, oh, that's because half of them are on a field trip. I said, oh, okay. Well, yesterday, if you want to Google later, Capital Elementary had 2 6th graders got into a fight, and one of them stabbed the other one. So 6th grade, you're talking about 11 years old.
Wow.
They have no conflict resolution skills. You know, they have missed so much. And I'm not giving them right for carjacking and stealing cars, and I'm not giving them right at all. But you have children who are just lost.
Yeah.
You have teachers who are exhausted. So even the good teachers, you can't keep them because they're exhausted from trying to figure out how to reach children. They can't correct them without being reprimanded by the board or reprimanded by the parents. It's insanity to me that the teachers are not really even allowed to discipline children. I don't mean hitting them. That's not what I'm talking about, but just discipline their children. Children need structure. And sometimes you have to say to Johnny, sit down, and I mean right now.
Yes, you do. Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
And be able to create a level of, I don't want to say fear, but the respect level where they know I mean business.
Uh-huh.
You know?
Oh, yeah. Authority.
When you have kids who know that they're in a system that nothing can happen to them, because that's what it is. They know the teachers can't do anything.
Yep.
They come from young parents, you know, but here's what's crazy, Trisha. Look at this. If these kids are dropping out of school in middle school, engaging in criminal activity, you got to know they're also having sex.
Oh, for sure.
Right? So then they're going to produce children. And can you see their kids in 15 to 20 years? You know, so anyway, at any rate,
that's the problem.
That's the problem. And my speech has been, if I'm in a room with one person to 500 in any state that I've been in. I went to an event in Nashville with some women with the Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority and gave them the same speech. We complain about so much, not understanding that the only way it's going to change is if we vote. So the things that we complain the most about, anything, is usually controlled by some branch of government. Insurance rates are crazy. Well, guess what? There's an elected position. That's the insurance commission.
Yep.
Your property taxes are crazy. That's an elected position. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
The House of Representatives, the state senators, those are elected positions, and we are considered lawmakers. So that means that we're going to run policy and laws every year.
Yeah.
If you want it's literally that cliche, your vote is your voice. If you're not using it, but you're complaining about everything, you're useless.
You are. You know, I love, for one, that clearly you're very passionate about this, because you just took on like a whole nother animal. Like, you're trying to build the country better. You're trying to make the country better and the world better. And that is a heavy load. Most people don't. Most people turn a blind eye to it, you know?
We all do. Including me, Trisha. Yeah. I did for years. You know, my thing was, I'm going to help great people get elected. That's what I used to tell people. I'm going to help great people get elected. But we have a seat right now here, House District 93. And what we had qualified, this is true, you can Google any story I'm telling you, was 2 convicted felons, a young man who was so volatile in his run for city council last year that I can't imagine why anybody would want to vote for him right now. Every forum, he was just aggressive and just, I'm passionate, not angry. There's a difference.
Right. Yeah.
He was just angry about everything. And then a young woman that nobody knew. So here it is. It's a 62% Black district, minority district. And so that's mostly Democrats here.
Okay.
In that district.
Okay.
And so I said to people, because they were like, oh my God. I said, well, that's you get what you get. They qualified. Nobody else qualified. Well, I got to support somebody because I need somebody who is passionate about getting something done. The option is not for me to stay home.
No.
Right? But you want better than we had. Senator Duplessis knew he wanted to run for that Senate seat almost a year before he ran. I have said to him, then you should have been lining up someone to take your House seat. Right?
Yep.
All of these political consultants in our city and organizations, you should have been lining someone else up to. Now you're complaining after qualifying has closed, but now we get what we get, right? So it's important not only for us to vote, but also to groom better people to run.
Yes.
That's the only way things are going to change.
Yep.
I had a lady about a month ago say it's the same old, because it's the same old super chronic people voting. Super chronics vote for their interests every year. Mm-hmm. Their interests. So you're getting the same person with a different name every time super chronics go out to vote, because you're letting them decide how to function, how you want to live. So we had the race during Mardi Gras, which was horrible.
I bet.
Less than 6% turnout.
Oh my gosh, that's probably the worst I've ever heard.
That's crazy.
Yes.
But it was on probably one of the biggest parades outside of Mardi Gras Day is Endymion on the East Bank. In the West Bank of New Orleans, it's Namtok. 2 parades that people wait all year for. And Endymion ran right along the voting poll route. And people literally camp out for days before Endymion runs that Saturday.
Oh, wow. They're not coming.
Parking is already crazy, so you want people in to park and walk 10 blocks to vote. I don't know about where you are. Like here, girl, we don't need any additional reasons to stay home. If it's beautiful outside, we want to go party. If it's raining too hard, we're concerned if it's going to flood. You know what I mean? If there's a party, a festival, or something like that going on, you got to be there. Yes, so here it is. Now you want people to parks, even as bad as things are in this state, you would think nobody would ever want to miss an election. Not true, not true. So it's been, it's frustrating.
Well, that was poor planning too. Who thought to do that?
Well, so think about it. If you are someone who watches how people vote and you want the possibility of stealing a seat, why not put it there, right?
Oh, yes.
My words came to be because it was 4 Democrats and 1 Republican in this 62% minority district.
Wow.
And so what it's saying to people, you're gonna sit down and go to sleep, and the Republican's gonna win.
Yeah.
He's gonna control how you live in that district.
Yes.
And then y'all gonna be flipping out, screaming and complaining. And when they call my office screaming and complaining, I look to my legislative aide and say, pull up Trisha Turner's voting record for me, please. I do. Because then my conversation has to be different with you then, right? Yeah. And I get all calls because they call, property taxes because I'm in real estate. Well,
I bet.
I can. Well, you're the state representative, yeah, not the assessor though. But I
No.
noticed you didn't vote in the assessor's rate last year.
I love that. Did you?
Looking at it, you didn't vote in that race though.
Yeah.
We have so much revitalization going on in New Orleans that a school teacher can't live in Orleans Parish.
I bet.
It's too expensive. So you have someone. Well, not just the school teachers. Our median income is $32,000.
Yeah. Like where can you live?
Yeah, that's a family of four.
Yeah.
Which to probably many of your listeners is, how do you live off of that? They find a way.
I don't know.
And these are people who are degree with careers. I'm talking about, like first responders, police officers, school teachers, supporting staff in the school systems, which just makes fundamentally no sense. To me, I actually had a conversation with one of my clients who is a higher end client, wealthy family here in Louisiana. One of those blessings that I told you about, just came from nowhere, and the family took to me and loved me. They won't buy a car without my approval.
That's the best kind.
Yeah, and so he was complaining about raising the minimum wage, and I said, what do you think is going to happen here? Think about where you live in the United States. When people have more money, they spend more money. So if you're paying them more, then they can spend more money in the community. That's going to help your business. That's all. Yeah. It won't hurt you.
No.
They're not going to take the money and make the money and go put it under their bed or under the pillow and hold it. It's going to help grow the economy. These people can then buy houses, so you get property taxes from them. They can go out, so you get money from consumer. It's going to add and help the economy. Our minimum wage is still $7.25 here.
Could you imagine living on that? Like how?
I cannot. And the misconception, another one of my high-end clients, she's a female, and this was years ago. We were on vacation together. And when I turned 50, I decided not to have a big 50th birthday party. I wanted to spend the money on myself, so I traveled for 3.5 weeks.
Love it.
Other places.
Heck yeah.
And so she met me in London, and we were talking about New Orleans, and she said, well, minimum wage was not meant for adults. It's high school. So I said, well, where you read that? I think you need to open up Google right now and Google the start of what minimum wage was really supposed to be, but just misinform people, right?
Yeah.
And so it's little by little that I want to hit, and hope that it lands sometime. But we have short-term memories in the United States where we live, and we want, the age of social media and everything else. We want everything immediately.
Yep.
We want results immediately.
Yep.
And so I tell people, the biggest victories in the United States came with time. It won't happen overnight. Even if we got out and we elected everybody new in the House, you still now have to undo all of the bad stuff.
My gosh, yes.
It has to be consistency. The bus boycott was 381 days. 381 days in the 60s where people walked to work and to school, or they carpooled. There wasn't much carpooling because a lot of them didn't have cars in the 60s.
Sure.
But they didn't start the boycott and 30 days later said, well, I guess nothing's going to change. They didn't change after 60 days, then after 90 days, not even 180 days. 361 days for African Americans to have the right to sit wherever they wanted on a bus. But that's commitment, right? We need to commit to, we want better for our kids. Right. I don't know your age, Trish. I'll be 55 this year.
You look amazing. You're beautiful.
Thank you. I want better for my grandchildren, right? And if I don't start trying to figure out how to turn the tide, what would my grandchildren's lives look like?
Bad.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, and it's our responsibility, those have found careers that do well, to not sit back and think that they've arrived, so to speak. I've been blessed. I was my first year with Gardner, I was rookie of the year, and I was rookie of the year for our city board and rookie of the year for our state board, and have
Look at
always done extremely well. Within my first year of owning my own business, I was nominated as managing broker of the year. Every year after that
you. Love
first
this.
year, I won managing broker of the year for our local board in 2021. Virtually still a new business, right? So
Yeah.
I've been blessed beyond words, but I can't take my blessings and sit back and say they got to get it how they get it, right?
No. But Delisha, you were not always blessed. I'm gonna have you backtrack now because there's women, a lot of women that watch our show, and
Hmm.
it's Women History Month.
Yes.
And I want you to share a little bit of your story because, well, you and I talked about off air. It's like I should be, a homeless, drug addict, prostitute, but I'm not.
Yeah.
You have a similar story, and I want you to share that because the life that you're living now is some that none will ever live, unfortunately.
Right.
You're in a position where you're not just wanting to sit back and relax. You're actually taking on a whole nother project, a huge project of like
Yes.
changing
Yes.
the world. But you started off in a very dark place. So
I
how do you go
did.
from
I
that
was the
to where you
product of a 15-year-old. My mother was 15 um, when she had me, and my father slash sperm donor was 28 years old. So essentially statutory rape.
are? Oh yeah.
And if you think about, I'm a September baby, September 3rd. So at a minimum, we could say he was violating her as young as 14, but we might probably even say younger than that, right? Because you carry
Yeah.
a kid for 40 weeks, sometimes 42 weeks.
Wow.
We're looking at December, November.
Sure. Wow.
But so I'll say as early as 14 because I don't know. And my mother, what I can tell you today, and I spent most of my childhood life just mad about everything, just angry because I saw things. My mother was addicted to drugs, and I heard things and I experienced things that no child should probably have to, but I know now that she was just self-medicating
Oh yeah.
through her own depression. Can you imagine?
No.
When my daughter was 15, she couldn't take care of a puppy, let alone a child.
Oh gosh, no. My
You know.
yes.
So my mom died when she was it was a month before her 29th birthday, and I was not headed. Your victims are your surroundings. You know what's around you. That is a true story.
Oh, it is.
So I was in a public school near my mother's house, and my friend circle was my friend circle from people from that neighborhood.
Yep.
And my grandmother, who was a loving little country gal from Labadeville, Louisiana, moved to the big city, and I think her goal was probably just to make my mother become more responsible. So my mother was left to raise me. And then when she died, my grandmother wanted to keep me in familiar surroundings. I guess that was her initial intention, not to just upset my entire world. So I'd gone through losing my mother. And so I think, and I'm saying I think because my grandmother's deceased now, and because I was angry so much, I didn't ask a whole lot of questions, and when I did, it would be explosive. I would just fly off the handle because, she decided to have me. I was that kid.
Did you have brothers and sisters, or do
I do.
you?
I have a younger brother. Yes.
Okay.
And he was conceived as a result of her during her drug addiction. So my brother suffered a lot. He was in the hospital for 7 weeks. He had 3 surgeries. He had a kidney removed. And so in my second week of school, I was in a school called Samuel L. Green Middle School. And my personality, I tell people, you come here who you are. So clearly I was going to be successful at something, but what?
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
So if you get where I'm going with that, I was
Oh,
going to be
yeah.
stressed about something.
Yeah.
And like the woodshop teacher called my grandmother week 2 and said, if you don't get her out of here, you're going to lose her too. And I came home from school. I cut school that day, and I was the ringleader. It
Oh,
was 3 of us. You know, I'd be like, "Come on, just walk out. Come
yep.
on," and we'd go hang out on Canal Street. You know, and so when I got home, um, she didn't even say anything. She was I remember this day like it was yesterday, in the kitchen on a Monday cooking red beans. And I came in and I went to my room, and the blue skirt and the white shirts and the ugly black and white tailbox with shoes were laid out. And I was like, what is this? Like, you're going in coining words starting tomorrow. And so I just fell out. I wish my brother were here. He loves telling this story. How I cried as if she told me I was dying.
Oh, I bet.
And I'm not going to cut school anymore. She was like, yep, I know. She didn't flinch an eye, Trisha. You know, just, I know you're not, because you ain't going back. I promise I'm not. And so I was my intention, I talked to two of my friends that night. And I said, I'm going to just go get put out the Catholic school. I'll be back.
That was so much story.
I'm going to go beat somebody up, and they're going to put me out.
Yes.
And I'll be back.
Yes.
And so I went in on a mission, you know.
Oh, yeah.
But she had already talked to all the teachers there too. And, you know, it was like, oh, she's dealing with the loss of her mother. And I'm like, whatever y'all on, whatever. And so I spent half the day trying to pick. This is how calculating my mind was. I spent all day trying to pick who I'm going to hit.
Yep.
I can't hit a weak child because then I'm going to look whatever. It has to be somebody. And so we were in the library, and this girl, she was like the school bully, you know, and wasn't talking to me, talking to somebody else. I said, girl, if you don't shut up, I'm going to slap you in your mouth. And so she was like, oh, I'm going to beat you up after school. Then I cursed her. And the librarian said, get out. Go to the office. I'm like, I'm home free.
Yep.
And I go down to the office, and the principal, who is Miss Audrey Wood, still alive today, and we still talk all the time.
Wow.
Was in her office. And here's another funny story. Like, I remember thinking she was old, but she's 89 now, so she couldn't have been that old back then.
I know.
The glasses, on the nose, you know.
Ancient.
Yes. And it's so hilarious because I remember in my mind thinking, this is torture. And it probably wasn't as long as I think it was, but she was just walking around and fiddling with papers. And she sat down at her desk and she said, Miss Young, that's my maiden name, I just want you to know I see you. We're going to love you back to life.
Oh, gosh.
Right?
Yeah.
And so my memory today is, which has to be impossible, but I never talked to the kids from my old neighborhood again. Really? I don't recall. We were so close that I find it hard to believe, but I don't recall talking to them.
Wow.
After that day. And she would bring me to her house with her kids on the weekend, and her daughter, Cabrina Woods, was in college, and she was a cheerleader. And Cabrina kind of took me under her wing.
Wow.
And, you know, today, you know, every family has something going on, but I remember just being in awe of the people in the school. And I felt like they were all perfect. So what I did was compartmentalize all my life. I put it in Pandora's box like it never happened, never talked about it. Although my brother was at the school too, struggling. But one thing my grandmother said to me, my brother had done something. And so when it was my brother and I with my mom, he was like my kid. I made sure he was washed and bathed and ate. You know, my mother got food stamps. I would go to the corner grocery store and buy a sandwich meat and make her sandwiches or whatever. And he did something at the house. And I said, go get the belt. And she said, no, go get the belt for what? No, you're not. Yeah, but I was used to criticizing and disciplining him. And she said, he don't need you to be his mom. I got him. She said, you just enjoy being a teenager.
Wow.
So I got put in this new environment where it was like a little family, everybody. Like I still converse with a lot of those people from that school, even now, 40 plus years later.
That is incredible.
And so it was the turning point, but not the only one. God has blessed me, Trisha, in so many ways that it's unbelievable. And so you see my post every day.
I do. I love them.
It comes from a true place of what I really feel. And I feel like anybody can tap into that same relationship with God if you open up to, and I had to get there. It didn't happen overnight.
Same.
You know what I mean? It didn't happen overnight. But I started journaling before Hurricane Katrina and just reading some of my journals. And I could point out all the jewels that he left for me at different stages of my life with people who I would be in rooms and in conversations that I had no business being in. So you got to say, but God, and success. And I've been an entrepreneur almost straight from undergrad, almost really, and have always had very successful careers. But being a type A personality, sometimes he had to knock me upside my head for me to.
Oh my gosh, yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
I tell people, because you're type A and you have a strong personality, the signs are already always there, but we are fix-it people. You know what I mean? So he'd throw the rock and that, I don't know, rock stopping me. I get hit with the brick and I'm still like, okay, that's a little bit. But, I used to be, I'm not that girl anymore, where I'd have to hit the brick wall and get knocked down and then get up and be like, oh, you wanted me to go left? I didn't know. You know what I mean? Although he had been setting the low, whatever.
Closing the door over and over.
Yes. And so I tell people, I'm so loved by God that he would not let me fail.
Yep.
Even when some of the decisions I was making would cause me to fail, he has in my lifetime halted life to just like a complete standstill till I get the message.
Oh yeah.
Right. And the moment I listen to and go the direction that he wants, it blossoms into a whole different realm, so I have no problem with sharing with people how blessed I am. I just wouldn't talk about the story on why I feel that way. I would just tell people I'm blessed. I'm blessed beyond words. I'm blessed beyond measure. God has always opened doors for me. I might even drop some, when I met Lainey Schwest, who's probably arguably one of the richest people in Louisiana, how I screwed that up, and still God would keep bringing him back full circle because I didn't know. I'm not a name drop. I didn't know who he was when I was introduced to him. And so I had another client that introduced us, and we were in a suite. My client had a suite for like a concert. Well, I'm here on a Friday. It was during the campaign season. I want to have a cocktail. Business, right?
Yes.
But now I'm kind of caught between Lane and his wife, and they're talking about what they want and what they were looking for, and how the agent they had wasn't really working out. And I'm pretending to pay attention, but I want to listen to the damn concert.
Right.
I want to have a cocktail.
I'm not here to work.
Yes. And so we exchanged numbers, and I did not follow up.
Oh gosh.
I did not follow up. So my client, Terrell Clayton, he called me. He said, after the concert, he goes, "You know who that is?" And I was like, "What's his name?" I forgot his name. This is conversation. He was like, "D, look him up, because it could be good for you." So I did a little research. I was like, "Oh, okay," but I still didn't follow up. So that was a Friday. And 1 week later, I went to lunch with some people because we're in campaign season. So some people from the committee, and I walked right past the man, girl. Didn't even recognize him. Crazy.
Yes.
I had done some research, so I knew, about their background and what the Schwest family meant to Louisiana. And so when he was done with his meeting, he came over to the table, and he has a very distinct voice. So when he knelt down beside me, I knew immediately
Oh
who he
gosh.
was. And so he was like, I'd like to get together this weekend so we can talk about it. And so that night I went home and I was ready for the meeting the next day. I was ready to go get this job. And met with him. It was a home run. And then he said, well, I need you to meet with my team next week, but I think you can knock it out the park again. I said, I can. And a week later, met with this whole team. And then I was hired as his realtor.
Wow.
Um,
Was it game changing for you?
It was a new level for me. Can I say that?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I had a pretty successful career. I've never really had a bad year ever in real estate. I kind of pivot and go where the market goes.
Yep.
And so it was a pivotal moment where it introduced me to a different level of understanding what rich is and what wealthy is. There's a difference.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
These people are wealthy people.
Yeah.
And so, and then became great friends of mine along the way.
Did you find that it inspired you to want to do more and be more?
I don't know if I would put it that way, because I'm always kind of, I call it one of my greatest faults is that I rarely sit in success long enough to enjoy it, because I'm already looking for.
Same.
Right. I'm getting better about it, Trisha, because I have forgotten big things in my life because I didn't sit in that moment and enjoy it, if that makes sense.
Oh, it does.
And so because now, you with age comes wisdom. I had to get there. But there's so many instrumental blessings that I've had in my life that I know the events took place, but I almost have no memory of the actual. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And so it's by that time I had gotten to a place where I expected God's blessings. So I wasn't shocked by the blessing, because I expect his blessings from me. Now I've gotten to a place where I know he's going to bless me beyond belief if I stay faithful according to how I understand to be faithful.
When did you develop that deep relationship?
I probably started tapping into it in the early 2000s, like after my grandmother died.
Okay.
And probably really, really kicked in post Katrina.
Okay.
On a whole nother level. But when I became open to it and understanding how you he wants to bless his children. He wants his children to shine, so people can come and look and see what that light is about.
Yeah.
Like I tell people, I have a glow that if your spirit is right, you get it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I get people who are attracted to the glow, and when they come to the glow and they realize the glow is real and this is how I live, it becomes too much, if that makes sense.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And again, because age comes with wisdom, I'm okay with it being too much for you. Keep going.
You know what? You're not for everyone.
I'm not for everyone. I tell my daughter all the time, because she gets so upset. I said, people will want to connect with me because they want to see what it is that makes me so successful. What is this glow that they see from the outside? And when they get inside and realize the glow is real and I'm consistently who I am on so many levels, it becomes too much. Not me becomes too much. The glow becomes too much, right? Because they can't handle the expectations that fall under this glow. I've said to my team time and time again, my cup runneth over, and you guys get the benefit of all the run over, right? You get all the benefit of everything that runs out of my cup. But God will not allow people who don't appreciate that to stay in the midst of mine.
He removes them.
He removes them, even when I'm not happy about it. And so the new me, Delisha today, will tell you, I may not like it. I may not understand it. I may even disagree with it, but I'm rolling with him, right? I'm rolling with him because he ain't let me down yet.
No.
Um,
I ask him every day to like remove the right people from my life and bring in the
right.
ones. And so when they disappear, I'm like, well, I guess that was his plan.
That's his
Bye.
plan. Right.
What can I do?
I had one of my agents who, she was my second agent back in 2015. I think she came. I think we went 6 months. Like here's when I started the company, it wasn't with this idea of me growing this company like this. I had a deal that I was working on with some people, and I needed Gardner, who made good money off of me for years, to just kind of take a seat on this one because
Yes.
you know.
Yep. I know.
And they wouldn't do it.
Yep.
And so I was like, well, hell, I'm a broker. I guess I'm gonna just go do it on my own, and I'll come back because I had an office, no overhead, because just it's a different world. I could have really stayed there.
Yes.
He put me in this position where it was time for me to move on and not get comfortable there.
Yeah.
Like literally they wouldn't budge, which to me was insane because this was in maybe April or May of 2014. And by then they had already made like 40,000 in commission.
Oh yeah.
Yep. And not to mention all the previous years.
Yes.
And so it was really easy to do. I didn't even know the process, right? But I called Baton Rouge, and Mark was like, "You're broke. You want to go? I could change it right now." And I was like, "Whoa, slow down." He was like, "Just let me know." I was like, "Well, let's do it tomorrow." And I meant like, "Let me call you tomorrow." The next day, I woke up and I was Delisha Boyd.
Oh my gosh!
So, I had several meetings with that team over there. And I said, look, my intention is to come back at some point, but I got to do this. I said, so we'll probably be gone for the rest of the year. And then somebody told them that I was looking at office space because I was just working out of my house.
Yeah.
And at that time, it was like 2 months after I left. It wasn't even true. It wasn't true. But I had taken on one agent, a young lady who worked in my building where I have a condo. I had a condo. And she was the building manager, and she had gotten licensed, and she was with a company. She was like, they don't help me. Can I just come? I was like, well, Jody, we kind of working at home. She was like, I don't care. I'll get more from you. I was like, okay, well, come on.
I love it.
So I got called back in, and the Barbara, she was like, somebody told us you were looking at us. Well, don't listen to somebody. When have you not known me to come tell you what I'm doing? Because at that time, it wasn't true.
Yeah.
And the owner said to me, I bet you're feeling the strain of not being under our umbrella. Bro, I said, Glenn, I said, I said, what umbrella? Because the business I have came from me.
Correct.
I bet you're feeling.
Yes, they're feeling
me not being, And I wasn't like the highest agent in the company by no means, but how arrogant was that for him to say?
A lot.
I had never taken a lead from that company or anything, and I came in my first year making money.
Mm-hmm.
I was rookie of the year, and so still though thinking he's just out of touch because he's the qualifying broker. He don't even understand what really happens in the branches, still making excuses for it.
Yeah.
So like a week later, Jody was taking a CE class somewhere, and she talked to a young lady who was at Century 21. And the girl, another one of God's blessings, the girl emailed me, and I was thinking, now this must be like some spam mail because I didn't have a shingle laid anywhere, and I wasn't making this big thing about being on my own,
No, you're just doing your thing.
Yeah, just on my thing. And so like 2 or 3 days went by, and I hadn't responded to her email. So she called me. This is when I used to run every day too. True type A over here. I used to run every day. And so she called and she was like, I just want to sit and talk with you. And I had to meet her at a coffee shop because I didn't have an office.
Yeah.
And so she said, I'm just really looking to learn. And she said, I've watched your career for years. And I said, yeah. So, I'm not really sure because I'm working out of my house. She was like, I don't care. Same thing Jody said, I don't care. I just want to. And I was like, okay, God, what's happening here? I can't have these people coming in my gated community where it looks like I'm working, because then my neighbor's gonna start complaining,
Yes. Yes.
And so I started looking for a business, a building, and we found a building in January 1st of 2015. We moved into our own office space, and between January and June, I got 15 agents.
Oh yeah.
Yep. When you follow what he says, that's when I always know when I'm doing right.
Yeah.
And so anyway, so this young lady, years later, I have my daughter and I were looking at a video of her just talking about how great I was, and I was a mentor and this, that, and the other. Was planning to start our own company and didn't tell me. And when I tell you poured into, and I still do pour into my agents, she went from only selling one house with Century 21 to selling $6+ million every year. And now she's at 15, 16 million a year. So like she was able to quit a full-time job, everything. And I remember thinking to myself, well, damn, didn't I deserve a phone call?
Think, right?
Didn't I deserve a conversation?
Yeah.
And so later, because this is how she did it. She calls me one day, she said, I think I want to do my own thing. I said, oh, okay. And she said, yeah, I said, okay, well, I wish you well. That's all I said.
Sure.
And her narrative is, I didn't even care that she was leaving. That's still, and I'm saying, I guess she might see this because that's her narrative. And I've never once tried to correct it. Because I don't know what God has planned for you. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah.
But I do know everybody who he wants in my circle will be here.
Oh, yeah.
It's time for you to go spread your wings. Maybe he's taking you away because he hears the conversations you're having about me when I'm not there.
I say that all the time.
I don't know what it is.
Yes.
But my last true interaction with her was I had nominated her for an award, and somebody had nominated me for an award. Mm-hmm. And so we both got it. And on the day of the award ceremony, when she saw me, she grabbed me and hugged me, and she went into like this ugly cry in the middle of the event. And so I remember one of my agents saying, just ask her to come back. I said, I didn't ask her to leave. I can't ask her to come back.
No.
Right? I didn't ask her to leave. And what I said to her, and I meant this is something you felt deep within yourself to try it, because you've only been gone 3 weeks.
Yeah.
But did you not do any research on the people who you were going into business with?
Oh, yes. It matters.
It matters. I said, but put your big girl panties on. I said, and if you need me, call. And I was very sincere about that. But somewhere along the way, it became, she just don't care about, it's all fake. It's really not fake. But I have a business I have to run, and I have to take care of my agents who are here. I can't take care of you now.
She became a hater.
Yeah.
Yes.
You wanted to leave, which I supported.
Yeah.
I wished you well.
Right.
But you can't expect the same treatment that you got when you were with me now that you're on your own.
No, doesn't work.
Right. No. And that's one of them things where it didn't, because she was my second agent. So she was like family. They came to my house.
Oh yeah.
So when the time came for her to leave, it didn't feel good.
It always hurts.
I had a bunch of questions that I did not ask because I trust God, Trisha. Just like he brought you to me for no reason at all.
Yep.
It clearly was our time to separate.
Yes.
I was trying not to make it about me. Like everybody's not meant to be on this flight with me.
No.
It was a whole entire flight. So some people will get off on the layovers.
Yep.
Right. And I know that, but I even made that about her. I don't know what God has in store for you. Maybe this is your next step. Clearly it is,
Of course.
I can't be the one to stifle that being selfish.
No.
Right. So that is how I try to live, not second guessing him. I can't. Like, he has spared me from some of the biggest losses. Before Katrina, I was doing this big real estate development deal. with some friends of mine who are physicians here. And one guy, I was divorced at this time. I met him when we were separated, but divorced at the time. And three of his friends, we were doing this, which on paper just looked like we were going to be like Donald Trump rich. Like
Oh, yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And so I tell people, because I'm crazy, I tell people because I would not pick up on the signs God had to let Katrina knock this city out where I could stop thinking about it. Like, really. Like, oh, you still don't get it. Let me just wipe everything. Right? And so
That's crazy.
and I still, because then my mind twisted somewhere else, because now we're in a rebuilding state. We could still make a fortune, probably even more money, because now the city's going to be in the rebuilding. Like all of these thoughts, I'm still not getting the message that he don't want me working with these people.
Oh, yeah.
And so in 2005, because we were evacuated, I bought a house in Fort Worth, Texas, and I was kind of going back and forth every week to check on my personal properties that I lost or whatever, and trying to just figure life out.
Oh, yeah.
The city was wiped out. And so being a true type A younger woman at the time too, I wasn't great about doctor's appointments because I had friends who were physicians. So if something was wrong, I'd be like, call me in a script for, whatever. Call me in a Z-Pack. Call me in whatever, And so my OBGYN had a friend who was in Dallas, who she went to med school with. And I don't know, God, I can't say I don't know what happened, why she called me with that, but because God called, made a call. And she said, why don't you go get a physical, crazy, give yourself something to do. Do this, do that, things you didn't do because you were working too much, because I used to work crazy hours. And so I go to her friend, and he's talking to me, like telling me about their college days and med school, and we're sharing stories, about her, laughing. And he goes, oh my God, what's this? And I said, well, you can't be doing an examination and say that. What the hell do you mean?
Yeah, that's not good.
Yeah, he goes, like, literally, I can only get like the tip of my finger. And he was like, your uterus is about to fall out. And I was like, what is going on? So he sends me up for an emergency emergency ultrasound. And I had a tumor that was on the back part of my uterus, tilting my uterus out. So they couldn't get to the tumor either because it was behind my uterus. Yes. So now I have to go through the surgery. I get put down, and the guy who I was dating, he's a cardiologist. If you know cardiologists, they're already arrogant beyond belief.
I did not know that.
Oh my God. And then he's short, so he has the Napoleon complex.
Oh no, syndrome.
And so, he just was not what I needed in that moment, considering the fact that the Friday before we evacuated for Hurricane Katrina, I buried my grandfather.
Oh gosh.
And my divorce was just fine. I mean, just a lot of just things going on.
Yep.
And I needed him not to be Dr. Jones, to be my boyfriend.
Yep.
And so once again, one of these stories I'm going to tell you, I don't think we ever officially called it off. I just, in my mind today, I tell you, I black things out.
I do too.
Kind of withered away. I'm going to fast forward. He goes to Georgia and he gets a fellowship in something. And so he's back and forth. He started dating a girl he was dating before me, but they were coming back to New Orleans. Fast forward, maybe 5, 6, 7 years later, and he calls and he wants me to help them find a place. So I do all of that because I'm over that part,
Sure.
The next year he gets indicted. Medicaid fraud. Him and the other 3 doctors that we were doing this deal with, all of them.
Oh, wow.
Get indicted for Medicaid fraud.
Wow.
What happened to my career had I had my money tied up in a deal with these people?
In the toilet.
In the toilet.
Yeah.
He got the worst of everybody.
Wow.
His wife was the only spouse that ended up doing 11 months. Girl, I'm telling you.
Oh, gosh.
When the first indictments came down, I was in my office and somebody sent me the article, and I sat back and I closed my door to praise God for not allowing me to get in that situation with these people. So they all had like 7 different counts. A year later, they added 3 more to his
Oh my
count.
goodness.
So he had 10. When I tell you he spared me from that deal,
Ruin.
um, and by the only ways he knew to stop me. So that's where I come in with my joke that Katrina had to come to stop me. And then when I still wouldn't stop, okay, well let me put her on her ass a little bit with a health issue to take her mind completely off of it. And then he was
Yeah.
his bedside manner was so crazy that I literally said to him, "Go back to Georgia. I don't need you here. You know, people have to take care of me when you're not going to be here, and you're around here snapping and being mean to the nurses and leave."
Yeah. There's no need for that.
Yeah. So, just when I tell you a lifetime of him sparing me when I didn't have enough sense to spare myself, you know, enough knowledge to spare myself, I have a lifetime of stories just like that.
And now with you and your career, well, your dual career,
Yeah.
you got a big challenge in front of you. You've come
Yes.
from nothing, and you know, by the grace of God, you
Yes.
are here successful and changing lives.
Yes.
So what would you tell women out there that are young, maybe, or not even young, but are in a situation where they think they don't have a way out and they think there isn't a better way? What would you tell them?
You know, there's always a way. But it's his way and not ours. And so sometimes you have to concede defeat to him to blossom, if that makes sense. And I'm big on journaling, big on journaling, because I like to not only be able to celebrate the wins, but also to set new goals.
Yeah.
Goals, right?
Yes.
I tell people everything that I've ever spoken has come full circle. Maybe not in my time, but every single thing, right down to me being an entrepreneur. In my senior yearbook, people put their professions under their thing. Mine says entrepreneur.
I love it.
And so know that it is a journey to get there. I'm a work in progress all the time. I have to check myself. You know what I mean? Sometimes. But when you submit completely, the sky is the limit. Now with that don't mean you sit back and do nothing. That's not what I'm talking about, right?
No.
You gotta put in your time and your work as well. So in as far as from the government side, women's issues, women's rights are in trouble.
They are.
In the United States, right? And I talk about Roe v. Wade, and I'll say this: whether you are pro-life or pro-choice, that has no business in government.
No.
Right? Most of these people, with the morality issues or whatever, but in the United States, we get freedom of religion. So maybe the God you choose to serve, who tell you that this is wrong, is not the God that I choose to serve. Right? And so I'll tell you from my personal experience, I don't think that I could, right, have an abortion.
Yeah.
But me saying that I don't think that I could, if my 9-year-old got raped, I'm sure I'm going to have a different thought on that.
Yeah, I'm certain of that.
Right?
Yeah.
But whatever it is, that is a personal choice within my family, because generally speaking, what I find is people who claim to be pro-life are really anti-abortion. They're not really pro-life.
Yeah.
If you were pro-life, then you would fight for better health care for children, not just children, everybody.
Everybody.
Pro-life, you would want the best educators rearing our future. Our children are our future.
Yep.
Right. The things that are fundamentally needed to survive, we have in the United States nearly 1 million kids that sit in foster care.
I know.
Nearly 1 million kids that sit in, but you're pro-life. Why are you gonna adopt one of these damn kids out here?
Right.
Right. Yeah. But to fight for things, we can make the difference. Women can make whatever your racial background is, whatever your party is, whatever your religion is, women can band together and shift government to someplace better.
I
But we
love
got to
that.
stand up and vote, right? And
Yeah.
we can do it because most women are multitaskers. So we're in 15 other groups besides. I mean,
Yes.
we're in, girl, I had to literally get off some board. I'm on so much stuff,
Same.
But in all those places, you become the voice. Not,
Yeah.
I don't tell people who to vote for or how to vote. I just
Right.
want you to vote, right? The importance of getting us out of this place of comfort, especially for women who have careers and who are successful.
Yeah.
Stop thinking that because you are, that you've arrived and you don't have to worry about the next person. Because I co-authored a bill for equal pay for women last year in Louisiana that failed in committee. It didn't even get to the House floor. They killed it in committee, right? That in 2022, I couldn't get a bill out for equal pay for women.
That's insane.
That's insane.
Totally.
And if you're thinking it won't eventually reach you, you are heavily mistaken.
Yeah.
You're heavily, I don't care what your income bracket is, it's going to reach and affect everyone.
But the fact that you want to take on this and challenge the world, because that isn't an easy task. This is daunting, and it's not
Right.
like it's going to be easy. That's an uphill battle.
Well, you know what I say though, Trisha, to that? The uphill battle happened in the 60s.
It did.
They didn't have social media. They didn't have cell phones. The people who were trying to fight for civil liberties had to travel all these places.
Yeah.
Girl, we got the internet.
We did.
I'm in New Orleans right now, right?
Yes.
We have cell phones where you could text 20 people and ask that 20 people to text 20 people.
Oh, yeah.
We have it easier. We just have to have the patience and the consistency to do it. You can't vote in one election and look for the change.
No.
It's not going to happen. It has to be on a consistent basis, and we have to be sick and tired of being sick and tired.
But a lot of people don't get there. I find when you talk to people, they get to a point where they are like in your life where you've successful, you've got a great business, and I'm not going to concern myself with changing the world. It is what it is, but you're not. You're like, I'm changing this.
Because you got to think about the world you're going to leave behind.
Yes, you do.
You're not going to always be here. I'm over 50. I expect to live another 45 years, though.
You're gonna.
But it's not just about us.
No.
You can get to a place where you feel like you've arrived and it doesn't involve you. It does. It absolutely does involve you. It definitely does affect you. And you could either sit at home and let someone else dictate how you live, because that's what happens. Or you can be ready to make changes and do something. And how about this? If you are an advocate in your community right now, consider running for office yourself. If you're doing the work outside, if you're advocating for women's issues and women's rights and teachers' issues and teacher education and pay raises and et cetera, then run for office. Consider it. Because we need your voice on the inside too. We need your votes, but we need sometimes just better candidates to run.
Good Lord, yes. I am like so happy that you're doing all that you're doing. I don't watch the news. I don't pay attention to it because I live in La La Land, they say.
Yeah.
I like it better there.
Mm-hmm.
I get good in the world.
I get that. Yes, I get that. Because as involved as I am, I'm not an avid CNN watcher, and I watch the news to get the weather.
When I used to watch a long time ago, that's what I did. Now I just got the app on my phone.
We now live in New Orleans. We have all 4 seasons in one day around here.
Oh, so I bet so.
You gotta watch it.
I think you're like, I could sit here and talk to you all day long. We're going to do this again because it's rare that you find somebody, that's successful, that loves what they do, but then is continually wanting to build things and change the world. Because that's me. It's like, I believe we can do it. One day at a time.
Yes.
One person at a time, one day at a time, whatever it takes.
Yes.
There's good in this world, and we just have to bring it together. We're better together.
Absolutely.
I love that. Delisha, how can people learn more about you or to help your cause or to find out more about how to help your campaign?
So my campaign, I should know that by heart, huh? I
You
don't.
should.
Um,
I'm gonna have to come visit you.
Please do.
Girl, I am. Like, I'm not kidding. You watch. I'm gonna look at the calendar. I'm gonna text you later. I'm like, okay, here's when I'm coming because I could sit and pick your brain forever. I love this. You have no idea. Like, you're probably my favorite person I've talked to because we're very like-minded.
Yes.
We have very similar stories and but here's something I'm going to say publicly. And I thought about when you said it, and I was like, I don't know if I want to say this, but I'm going to say this because I don't know your whole background, but I can relate to your mom. And when I got pregnant with my first child, my son, I was a drug addict. And I had to make a choice of whether I was going to use drugs or not. And so I did not while I was pregnant. However, once he was born, I relapsed one time and he was a few months old and I couldn't take care of him. And I never have said this publicly before. And I had to call my mom to come get him. And she came over and I met her at the door with him. And she looked at me and she said, "You disgust me." And she took him out of my arms. And at that moment, I had to decide, was I going to be a mom or was I going to be a drug addict? And I chose to be a mom. And so my son is my saving grace. And I have two other
Can you
children.
say how powerful that is in itself, though?
Oh, huge. And that's why I was like, I'm not sure I'm going to say this publicly, but I am.
When I tell you that's powerful, because just what you did, I was hard on my mother because I felt like that's what she should have done, not understanding the monkey on the back from that.
It's horrible.
It's powerful that you were able to
It is very
do
powerful.
that, but also lets you know that he had bigger plans for you.
He did.
He had bigger plans.
I wasn't even wasn't going to church. I wasn't brought up in church. But when my son was a year and a half old, I got this hunger to know God. I always believed, just didn't know Him. And when my son was a year and a half old, I was in a bad marriage, and I needed help. And I started going to Second Baptist Church, and when my son was a year and a half old, and we have been avid churchgoers, and God has shown me things I've never seen before, and I've blessed things. I have a son that is 22 years old now, and he wasn't supposed to live past 4. So I believe, I'm a big believer, and I meet people like you, and it's like I hear and I think about the whole time you were talking, I was thinking about your mom, and I know the pain of what I went through. There was times literally when I didn't know if I could go on to the next day because you're not happy when you're that deep into drugs and about ending your life. But I always believed in God. So I was like, I know if I do that, I know the consequences are. So I'm not going to get that far. But so I don't know where your mom was at mentally in all of that. But it hurts me for your mom, even though I'm a mom and I know what it's like to be in that situation where it's like your kids should come first because they should. But we don't know what her state was. Maybe she didn't have support.
I don't. And again, like now that I have like a million questions, everybody who I would trust with the answers has gone on. Because she had horrible boyfriends that did horrible things. And my thing was just that. Why doesn't she make the decision to do better for me, to do better for my brother now? And even once she died, I remember I was a married woman with a daughter, and I was by my godmother's house, and she was saying something kind of defending Linda Ann, and we got into a huge argument because I still at that time felt like she should have made a better choice.
Yes.
I didn't hear about
for sure.
And she kept saying, "Dee, but you don't understand. Like when you're on that, you're not in." I didn't want to hear any of that. I wanted her to do what you did.
Yep.
But now I look back on what I would imagine just from the abuse that I went through, that she was probably still being abused on some level. She was dating this man when I was 5 or 6 that used to make me kneel in rice. Rice.
I've heard of that.
And but I remember also when she was ready to be done with him, which had to be because he was abusive. And keep in mind, I was a kid. I was a little kid.
Yeah.
But when my grandmother came to the house, and it was a big fight to get him out of her house. And my little 6-year-old self went and got the broom, and I was hitting him on his legs with the broom.
Wow.
But I not until recent years have I ever thought about what must he have been doing to her as well. You know, and so I'm in a different place. I wish there was some way for me to talk with her. And
do you forgive her?
I do.
That's where peace comes from, inner peace.
Yes, I do. I really do. I have a better understanding now, so it was easy to forgive.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if I've actually said it to her, but I just suspect that she knows.
Oh, yeah.
That I'm in a different place right now, and I get it. I get it. I do.
You know what? It is what it is. You can't change it.
No.
But it didn't define you.
No, and it didn't. You know, again, just blessed. Just blessed.
We are.
Really. So my campaign website is Delisha, 4 Algiers.com. Delisha, 4 Algiers.com. Or you can always just go to my real estate website, which is DelishaBoyd.com.
Yes.
There's always a way to reach me. I have emails and everything all over everywhere. And if you, to the listening audience, have a question on anything, real estate or legislation, call me. If you have an idea for some good legislation, I'm always up for a fight. So,
or maybe if you want to get involved out there and help her.
Yes.
There's help needed.
Yes.
How much is given, much is required, right?
Absolutely. And I live by that too. So we didn't even tap into that.
Oh, girl, we're going to do this again.
Yeah.
We
didn't
are.
tap into that. I live by that. So I do give back tremendously because I can't sit in the blessings that I have and not extend that blessing to someone else. Yeah.
No. You guys, we're going to end here because I can sit and talk to her all day, but I know that she's got to get back, and I know y'all do too. And this recording goes out everywhere. Y'all, this has been like awesome. She's super inspiring, and you just feel the passion and hear the passion in her. There's just somebody that really wants to make a difference in this world. So y'all all need to follow her and pay attention. Let's help this because we're better together.
We are stronger together. I think I posted that today in a post I put on social media, and I think the last sentence of that states just that we are stronger together. That's a true statement.
I will call you later, Delisha. We're going to get together. You guys have a great day. Bye, y'all.
Bye, everybody.